Imagine a prison. No one has ever walked out alive. Iron cells, guards with swords, and walls towering 10 meters high. Yet, on a winter night in 1724, a young man named Jack Sheppard loosened his chains with a rusty nail, climbed the walls, and vanished. He wasn't just a thief. He was the ghost of London, defying death itself. Who was Jack Sheppard? And how did he transform from a humble carpenter into a legend that baffled all of Britain? Childhood of hardship. Jack was born in December 1702 in London, specifically in Spitalfields, a mercilessly poor district. Life at the time was harsh beyond description. Poverty wasn't merely a lack of money. It was an environment of disease, hunger, and insecurity. Jack lost his father while still a child, leaving his mother, Elizabeth Sheppard, in a desperate struggle to provide for him. She worked tirelessly, but her meager earnings as a street vendor barely kept the specter of hunger at bay. Young Jack was sent to St. Thomas's Hospital, a modest orphanage where he learned the basics of reading and writing. But the true education came from the streets. In those shadowed alleys, Jack learned that intelligence was the true currency, and that the world would take everything from you if you weren't clever and resourceful enough to protect yourself. By the age of 7, Jack was sent to work as an apprentice for Paul Key, a rope maker. It was grueling manual labor, and he felt no passion for it. Later, he trained in carpentry under Owen Wood, discovering a natural talent. His hands moved with astonishing skill, as if tools and locks were extensions of his body and mind. Yet even carpentry, a respectable trade, could not lift him from the deep pit of poverty he was born into. Poverty shadowed him constantly, and need pushed him ever closer to the edge, step by step, toward crime. Sliding into darkness. Key figures. Jack did not choose crime lightly. It began in the crowded taverns of London, where he encountered the city's dark underbelly. One of the earliest influences in his life was Joseph Blake, known as Blueskin, a fierce and violent thief. Despite their differences, Jack felt drawn to this world of high-stakes adventure. The most impactful figure, however, was his lover and partner in crime, Edgeworth Bess. Bold, clever, and streetwise, Bess taught Jack how to plan his operations and move unseen. She transformed him from a frustrated carpenter into a cunning, agile thief. Theft became an art. The beginnings were simple: stealing clothes, then wallets, evolving into daring burglaries of wealthy homes, yet with one rule: steal only from the rich. People began calling him the gentleman thief, and secretly, the city admired him. The police saw a threat to order, but the common folk viewed him as a hero, stealing from the unjust. Viewer question: before we move to the most thrilling part of his story, Jack never stole from the poor, seemingly following the principle of taking from the rich. Do harsh circumstances justify such actions? Would you call Jack a folk hero, or is he still a criminal? Share your thoughts in the comments now. From thief to escape legend. Jack Sheppard was first arrested in 1723 and imprisoned in Clerkenwell. For novice thieves, this was the expected fate, but for Jack, prison was just another challenge in the cat-and-mouse game. His first escape was simple, yet announced the birth of a legend. Using his carpentry skills, he dismantled his cell door with basic tools and climbed the roof to descend into the streets at night. But his most famous escape came after he was captured again in September 1724 and placed in Wood Street, Compter. Bound in chains and locked in a solitary cell, Jack worked in darkness with painstaking precision. Using a silk necktie and a sharp piece of metal taken from his shirt, he began unlocking his bonds. Hours of silent, meticulous effort followed. When freed, He used an iron rod to break through a wooden wall and squeeze through an impossibly narrow gap. Every escape became headline news in London. Newspapers didn't report it as a warning, but as sensational stories. Songs were sung about him in taverns, giving him fame surpassing politicians and clergy. Police were humiliated, yet unable to halt this popular phenomenon. Newgate Prison, the ultimate challenge. After a short pursuit, Jack was captured again, but this time authorities made no mistake. He was transferred to Newgate Prison, infamous as the living grave. Newgate was a fortress. No one had ever escaped. Jack's cell, the stone ward, was in the most secure section, bound with double chains and restraints. But Jack's mind was his greatest weapon. Over 3 days, he studied every detail of his cell: guards' movements, key sounds, wall weaknesses. On the night of October 15, 1724, Jack executed his greatest feat. With a small nail found on the floor, he unlocked the outer padlock. Using a chain segment as a tool, he opened 6 additional iron doors. Climbing chimneys, breaking walls, and navigating 3 major sections of the prison, he reached the final door, unlocked its complex mechanism, and emerged onto the roof. From there, he used a blanket as a rope to descend into the dark streets, vanishing before the guards even noticed. This escape caused a historical sensation. Jack Sheppard had humiliated the entire British judicial system. The government offered a substantial reward, and Jack became a legend on every tongue. The final fall and legendary end. Unfortunately, freedom was short-lived. Weeks after his escape, Jack returned to his old habits at a familiar tavern in Finsbury, where he was captured by the infamous Jonathan Wild, head of a secret criminal network turned police collaborator. Betrayal sealed his fate. This time, there was no room for error. Jack was taken to an inescapable cell, chained with 300 pounds of iron. His end was near. On November 16, 1724, Jack Sheppard was led to the Tyburn gallows. An estimated 200,000 people, a third of London's population, gathered to witness the event. They did not come to despise him, but to celebrate his rebellious spirit. Standing before death, Jack remained calm, smiling, unafraid. His final words were a powerful whisper: "You may chain my body, but my spirit is free." Though the sentence was carried out, Jack's story lived on. Ballad operas, poems, and plays immortalized him as a symbol of rebellion against social injustice and harsh 18th century laws. Today, he is remembered not as a mere thief, but as an enduring icon of freedom. Jack Sheppard was more than a thief. He symbolized humanity's struggle against social constraints and harsh circumstances. His story shows how a poor young man can become a legend, even if the cost is his life. So, here's the final question for you. Considering Jack's tragic end, do you think rebelling against injustice is worth risking your life? Or should cleverness be used solely to survive? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this story and want to discover more historical figures who defied the system, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated with the most thrilling true stories from history.